Hello everybody, this is a short video to present our analysis of the audience participation that we got going through some questions related to strategy delivery during our presentation on connecting project and strategy management through integrated governance. The event report is as a link there, and you can access the rest of the contents about business integrated governance in the links below. Just to very briefly set the scene, during the presentation we explained a model that people can visualize that connects from business drivers through business purpose to strategy to objectives to delivery entities and back again through a cycle. We suggested that as a model it might sound simple, but when it hits an organization it gets quite messy and complicated, with prioritization challenges, dependency management issues, and a myriad of people and process to try and get this to work through. And we reflected that is it any surprise that strategy delivery is difficult, and the results for strategy delivery documented in many publications aren't particularly very good. Well, if you'd like to hear that preamble, please find the link to the YouTube video below. So what are the key challenges of strategy delivery that we gathered from our audience on the 11th of October? So we have a model for a strategic process, which you can read again in the big body of knowledge. We have looked at a framework for an organization and how it can cascade those objectives and sub-objectives throughout its structure. And that looks complicated and difficult to set up and manage. And we've got some evidence from various sources which suggests strategy delivery is difficult. But where are the areas of difficulty? Where might we look to discover our issues and solve the problems? There are many. In the big work that we've done, these are roughly the areas we've worked with people on. The first one there, clarity and communications, should be quite straightforward, making sure that strategy is clear and it's well communicated. The second one relates to cascade of objectives and sub-objectives and the establishment of clear accountability and their ongoing managing that accountability. There's prioritization and enablement. If objectives aren't prioritized, how do we decide where we deploy leadership time, funds and resources and make that commitment to an accountable person so they can be held fairly accountable whilst being enabled. The penultimate challenge there is around control, agility and integration. Can we keep on top of progress? Can we change our mind and pivot between things as priorities shift? And do we have all this joined together so that we can see impacts and choices very simply and clearly? And of course, underpinning all this, do we have the information, capability and the data sources to allow us to make decisions quickly and easily? There are many challenges that we need to address. So let's explore what your experiences are in some of these areas. The second question area is related to cascading strategy into actionable sub-objectives with establishment of clear accountability. Some of the things you might comment on from your situation include: is there a clear cascade of objectives and sub-objectives? Does everyone understand what this breakdown is and what their part to play is? Is it clear who is accountable for each objective and sub-objective? Have the workloads required to achieve those objectives been defined and clearly agreed and understood? And do workloads try to find objectives to align to? Do you have projects that are seeking to align to strategic objectives, or do you have strategic objectives defining your projects? Well, the question we eventually asked was, does your organization have a clear cascade of objectives to sub-objectives? As you can see, we've got about 116 responses, lots of good stuff. And although we got responses against this question, the areas that they covered range from clarity and communication, cascading and accountability, prioritization and enablement, control, agility, integration and leadership, and information and data. So we covered all the bases in this question response. Well, the first response area, lack of clarity and understanding, I'll leave you to read the comment. But why is this an issue? Well, lack of understanding of the strategic intent and how it relates to local objectives or roles is not going to lead to achievement of purpose, nor will it enable inconsistencies between them to be managed. So what do we suggest this group considers doing against it? Well, our proposition is that organisations facing this issue try to operate the process that connects from purpose to vision to strategy. Have somebody grab hold of that and actually operate it. And ensure that the cascade, and of course the integration, of objectives and responses to objectives works for the whole organisation. And there are numerous components from within the big framework that will enable us to do that. You can see the list there. The second response was around inconsistent communication, and you can read the comments there. Why is this an issue? As we can all imagine, poor communication of how the strategic intent and how local objectives provide a response to them. Poor communication to the response is not going to lead to achievement of purpose and will not enable inconsistencies to be managed, just like the previous response. What do we suggest people consider doing against this response? Ask the business to provide business support to manage the communication of strategy and provide assurance on the integrity of the cascaded strategy. And again, the big framework has all kinds of components in it which you can build this from. The third response area was around absence of any cascading mechanisms, any technology or support to get objectives cascaded through the organisation. Why is this an issue? If we can't cascade, then we're not establishing accountability, and that will mean that important objectives just aren't achieved. If there's no corrective means related to that or resultant consequences, where there's lack of compliance or there's divergence between expectation and result, future objectives will also continue to fail and we won't get any better. So what do we propose? We propose formalising the cascade process and provide an information backbone that supports it. There are many tools out there you can have a look at which enable the management of objectives and key results. This can give us a focus on accountability and help us manage rewards and consequences related to that. Again, the big framework contains many components that can contribute towards this. The next response area is to do with competing and conflicting objectives. This in some ways is worse than having no or poorly defined objectives, because not only are we now wasting time and money on the wrong things, but we're probably squabbling about it as well and wasting our energy on those things too. So the proposition for the group is that their organisations provide support to manage the integrity of all strategic elements, to make sure the elements are connected and configuration managed, and provide assurance to check that as well as support it to make it happen. Again, the big framework has many components which will help us define what it is we need to build and operate. I guess we hear the phrase siloed operations to refer to parochialism that is for many people not good. But I guess if we're driving a strategy and the goals are nicely self-contained, and we can allocate resources, leadership, time and funds, that's not a bad thing, because we can get people to focus. The issue is if we have competing objectives, if we have to collaborate on objectives. The issue is that if people are being parochial, it means they're perhaps prioritising the same objective different ways, and we've got conflict and difficulty in progressing those things, and we're wasting time and effort trying to solve those matters. So again, what we suggest, again, for people who want to address this issue, is provide business support to manage the integration of strategic elements and ensure the integrity of the cascade of that, and have a prioritization framework to allow us to see the priority of all our objectives, whether we have sole ownership of them or whether we're collaborating. At any moment, we can see the priority of any objective that we're working on, and can make good choices accordingly. Again, there are many components of the big framework that will help us build and operate this facility. Overlooked workloads and responsibilities. This one was the most interesting one for me. It's all about doing things that we're meant to be doing versus doing things we're not meant to be doing, and getting the balance right. Clearly, if we don't get a clarity of objective and don't get resources deployed and delegated to accountable people so they can get on with things, then we've got a disconnect between what the business wants in terms of strategy and what it's going to get. Timescales slip, scope varies, there's waste in delivery, issue resolution time, suboptimal objectives, receiving more attention than they're meant to. Lots and lots of stuff that is a problem. We're doing the wrong things, basically. And the proposition is that as part of our change, we develop a culture where all objectives within each strategic theme are visible and prioritised. And they're prioritised well to enable accountable people to receive the leadership time, funds and resources that their objectives warrant, so they can be fairly held accountable, and we can therefore reasonably hold them to account and drive the objectives we really want. This is fundamental to accountability and getting things to happen, and all the components basically in big support just this. The next response area is insufficient leadership support. Many of the responses were talking about guidance from leadership on the cascade of the objectives and the setting of objectives and so on and so forth. But I read this as slightly more than that, because if we're not getting sufficient leadership support to set the objectives and create the operation for strategy delivery, then the operation for strategy delivery is going to be poor, and is our leadership going to be reticent to grasp that nettle and do something about it? So it's worrying from two perspectives, to my mind. So the proposition then to this group is to engage your leadership into the culture where executives are accountable for objectives within strategic themes that they own and they're held account, and that the tone needs to be set from the top for this to happen and be able to cascade through the organisation consequently. And of course, there are lots of big components that will help you build and establish this capability. When we read a response area about resource constraints, our initial reaction may be to think that there's lack of resource to actually deliver all aspects of the strategy, which of course is an issue if we can find it. But I believe the responses here were about lack of resource for support to enable the implementation of the cascade of objectives, and not providing support to enable the cascade of objectives and the ongoing management sends the wrong message, I believe, to organisations and people within it, about the importance of strategy delivery, suggesting leadership isn't really taking strategy delivery seriously, isn't really that fussed about holding people to account, and so on and so on, and all that stuff. So it's not resourcing the support function to make it happen. I think is terrible for strategy delivery. So our proposition then is that people watching this engage their leadership to build the appropriate operating model for strategy delivery and provide accordingly the right levels of support. That's business support, assurance, information and data capability to enable this to be integrated and operated. And that would happen through a process of engagement on current state, building a consensus of pains and possible gains, business case roadmap, and all that kind of stuff, as you might expect from a change program. The next response area was around a reactive versus a proactive approach to strategy delivery. Well, for some, a reactive approach is called being agile. So in many cases, there's nothing wrong with being reactive versus proactive. It's just the strategy delivery approach is exactly that. The problem is if that's not in control, it's not based on data, and that the organisation is flitting without good decision-making information or truly knowing the consequences of doing that on other objectives that might not be quite so important. So we need to understand where we are, and whether we're command and control or laissez-faire with our strategy delivery, we need the information to make that clear. So the proposition here is to create the culture, whichever strategy approach that you have, where all objectives within all your strategic themes are part of roadmaps, however detailed or developed or simplistic and directional they are, that they're all visible and prioritised, with a focus possible so that governance and accountability can provide us the information we need to make prioritisation calls decide on course corrections or re-steers. And the big capability from the strategy information model through to operating model, governance, organisation and accountability and leadership is all available to build these capabilities and components with. In summary then, the majority of responses fall into the negative category, indicating a lack of clarity or understanding in the organisation regarding objectives and the related strategies. There are also a number of significant mixed responses, showing some level of ambiguity or partial satisfaction. There are positive responses, but they're the least frequent, suggesting that clear communication and strategy are not widespread between the organisations represented today. Improvement responses indicate that while some structures are in place, there's still plenty of desire to improve. And lastly, challenges responses highlight that there are plenty of specific barriers to regarding objective cascading and accountability. It seems that, well, there are many common issues that we've just gone through. There are plenty of responses that we've received to do this analysis on. The themes, I believe, are very clear. And the question is, can you leverage these example themes, example ideas, to help your organisation understand itself? Can you engage key stakeholders to accept their current state? Do these issues we've discussed relate to your organisation? How do they relate? Can you map the current state of your organisation and how it currently looks after its journey from purpose to vision to strategy? And is there a clear operating model behind how that then is driven and sustained through the organisation? And can you, with your organisation, identify some key triggers to help key stakeholders accept and define and agree, I guess, what the key pains are that all the key stakeholders face. Do they see possible gains? And we can use the big framework to offer the potential building blocks for how those gains can be achieved. And can you see and explain what needs to be built to operate the integrated governance to make some of these things go away? So what next? Well, the next question we'll write up and share as soon as we can. There are links to find out more about BIG. You can register for event 2. Event 2 is about a deeper dive on the knowledge around BIG to help you understand it and explain it and see how it fits you a little bit more. And there's an event series, and there's a third event in the series, which will be a very much more of a workshop for those that want to try and work out how to do this within their organizations. So allow me please to offer you business integrated governance. Well, what is it? There are many ways I could describe it. I can describe it from various perspectives, but in a nutshell, business integrated governance is the integration of our purpose into a vision, to the strategy that achieves it, to the delivery that makes it happen. And that has to work through all levels of our organization across all parts of it, from strategic levels through to management and leadership levels, through all the teams, and we need to connect everything up so that we can make choices to coordinate and achieve what we want to achieve. To reiterate, it has to cover business as usual, valuation, and change. So in P3 space, we see strategy delivery as change, as strategy portfolio, strategy program. Well, we need to make sure we align performance of our business as usual, product development, as well as our change capabilities. The big body of knowledge, therefore, has a lot of theory and a lot of examples within it. It explains the key concepts that we need to engage organizations on this. It offers some principles that we can use to test where we are and what we need to make the capabilities that will allow us to run this. It will describe the components. It doesn't just describe theory. It suggests what the work breakdown structure might be, what the product breakdown structure might be for the capability that you need to operate business integrated governance. It offers a life cycle for how to get this on the exec agenda, to build a business case, to develop the enablers, and move on into waves of business change, which include the enablement of people, development of process, configuration of tools, etc., etc., etc.